Hello and welcome to the Bot Box. Okay, we're back. I've recovered from the BSOD for this week's self-inflicted challenge. The aim to remind you guys who are watching just how destructive Typhoon 2 was. No pressure. I know I'm sharing the room with quite the elephant, but I will address the elephant when the time is right. Now the time is wrong. We have a fight to go through first. So, Typhoon 2. A cone-shaped full-body spinner painted red, white and blue stripes. That hoped to trash everything else in the ring before someone flipped it over, because Typhoon 2 had no self-righter. Its team made a string of robots in various weight categories that had basically the exact same design as Typhoon 2. They also had an unfortunate track record of winning things in controversial circumstances. So, entering the Annihilator in Robot Wars Extreme 2, could Typhoon 2 be any different? In the Annihilator, Typhoon 2 faced horizontal grabber, not spinner, can opener, flippers, Thermidor 2 and Raging Reality. Thermidor 2, of course, having the lobster theme. Vertical spinner, Major Tom, and spinner stroke flipper, Revenge of Trouble and Strife. Typhoon 2 also had a self-destruct button, I kid you not, and had a target, Major Tom. Typhoon 2 was out of focus as it spun up to start the battle, first being seen in a robot sandwich between Major Tom and Can Opener. Typhoon 2 gained a hole in the process because Can Opener got a claw stuck in Typhoon 2. Can Opener did manage to shake Typhoon 2 off, but that attack stopped Typhoon 2's spinner dead. So Raging Reality, sensing an opportunity, came along and flipped Typhoon 2 over. So Typhoon 2 got counted out and it was out. That was it. No further damage done to it by the house robots. It just went out. Typhoon 2 returned to Series 7 and got in despite not having won its qualifier. Basically, it was a lucky loser. It landed in Heat O, where it drew 4th seeded flipper Bigger Brother, a flipper stroke vertical spinner Colossus, and horizontal spinner URO. Once again, Typhoon 2 stayed out of the way so it could, try and spin up. It didn't successfully spin up. Whilst this was going on, Colossus opened the pit, whilst being pursued by Bigger Brother. Once Bigger Brother flipped Colossus and basically left it for dead, Typhoon 2 joined in the fray, helping Bigger Brother attack URO. Though, despite it not actually spinning, it did manage to take out some of URO's armour. Give that what you will. Anyway, Bigger Brother flipped URO until it stopped moving and went after Typhoon 2 and flipped them. So as a result, it was very close between URO getting done in and Typhoon 2 getting done in. But Typhoon 2 was still somehow able to move it because it finally managed to get the spinner working once it was upside down. And as URO, it was stopped first. URO was the one that was counted out. So Typhoon 2 got through, where it fought Dutch shark-based robot Hammerhead 2, a flipper. Typhoon 2 spun up, pursued by Hammerhead 2 all the time, before Typhoon 2 hit Hammerhead 2. repeatedly. First the left-hand side died, then Hammerhead 2 lost its face and what was left of its ability to move. So Typhoon 2 left Hammerhead 2 to the House Robots and made it through to the heat final where it faced Axe-Struck Flipper Iron Ore 2. Typhoon drove off so it could self-right. Get used to this. And once it hit Iron Ore 2.1, the yellow bots spun away. And Iron Ore 2.1 is no spinner. None of the Iron Ore robots have been a spinner. Even Axel was not a spinner. The clue's in the name. It was an axe bot. Iron Ore 2.1 missed with an axe blow, so Typhoon 2 hit Iron Ore 2.1 and missed its flipper a bit. Another hit basically took out the flipper. It was still attached, but it was just rendered non-functional. So Iron Ore 2.1 went for the pit release tire, its last hope. But Iron Ore 2.1 got hit again. And it had been chased to the pit release tire. The pit release tire got KO'd. Thanks Typhoon 2, you vandal. And the hit not long afterwards basically mangled Iron Ore Flipper. If it wasn't out of commission already, it was now. Iron Ore 2.1 actually ended up getting damage to a side panel as well, and ended up right next to the Pit of Oblivion. But Iron Ore 2.1 did not drive into the pit, which could have been classed as a sensible thing to do. It stayed still for far too long, which caused Iron Ore 2.1 to end up with shunt as a result of a Typhoon 2 hit. It got counted out because it was dead. It got axed, counted out, and had a cooker land on it, which Typhoon 2 hit. So, next up, in the series semi-finals, no less, Typhoon 2 faced the number 14 seed Thermidor 2. You remember the lobster, right? Well, Typhoon 2 spun up, pursued by Thermidor 2. Once up to speed, Typhoon 2 hit Thermidor so hard that the lobster bot died. Yeah. Typhoon 2 hit Thermidor 2 into a corner, which was the cue for an axing and a counting out and a charcoal lobster. Oh, and it flew too, and had a washing machine land on it. So next up, the fight that would decide whether or not Typhoon 2 would be a grand finalist, was another flipper, Atomic. Atomic tried to get a flip in early on, but didn't quite manage to flip Typhoon 2 over. They tried again, did Atomic, but their timing was a microsecond out. They flipped themselves over instead of Typhoon 2 and ended up in a position where they could not self-right. Typhoon 2 spun up and hit Atomic a few times, thrice, no less, which finished Atomic off, not Typhoon 2. Typhoon 2 was alive and well and very noisy as well. I had a very, very loud death. Imagine a giant fan, and that is the noise coming out of Typhoon 2. Iron Ore 2.1 was a quiet robot. So Atomic flew and was pitted, and Typhoon 2 made the grand finals at its very first attempt. So first in the grand final, Typhoon 2 faced Vertical Spinner Exterminator, the 11th seeds. Typhoon 2 spun up, Exterminator tried to give chase, but the thing is, with their nice shiny new Vertical Spinner, they had sacrificed speed in favour of weapon power. So as a result, Exterminator was nowhere near quick enough to catch Typhoon 2. Exterminator ended up being on the wrong end of a couple of Typhoon 2 blows, which took out Exterminator's weapon. So Exterminator opened the pit, which was now its one hope. So Typhoon 2 hit them again, and again and again. They had to avoid the pit, which they got dangerously close to a few times. But what they didn't avoid was the arena wall, which they broke. The Vandals! And that caused a halt to the battle. After the wall was fixed, the battle restarted. 1 hit later, Exterminator was dead. So the 11th seeds were counted out. So Typhoon 2 was now 1 win away from the title. And waiting for them was Lifter, Rammer, Storm 2, the 16th seeds. Typhoon 2 got spun up, but Storm 2 hit them in such a way that they actually had to spin up all over again. Progress was lost. A second hit did not slow Typhoon 2 down though. Typhoon 2's tactic was now to kind of stay away from Storm 2, but Storm 2 caught up, stopped Typhoon 2 and lifted up Typhoon 2, but failed to flip the spinner, which would have ended the battle right there and then because Typhoon 2 can't self-right. So Typhoon 2 got away so it could self-right. No, it couldn't. It couldn't self-right. Spin up, I mean. However, this time Typhoon 2 was slow to spin up, though that's never helped when your opponent is smothering you and pushing around the arena, like what Storm 2 was doing to Typhoon 2. Once Typhoon 2 got room to breathe, it spun up and broke another arena wall. Again, you vandals, Typhoon 2. Storm 2 actually helped Supernova break to kill lots of tracks, so it could technically be classed as a vandal. Anyway, the battle was halted to fix the arena wall. Storm 2 hit Typhoon 2, which stopped Typhoon 2 from spinning it. In both the Exterminator fight and this one, it had been allowed to spin up to speed. It sent the spinner to Matilda, Storm 2, and Storm 2 pushed Typhoon 2 around and nearly flipped them over, which again would have stopped the battle there and then. Typhoon 2 got back on its wheels, though, and opened the pit and spun up. After a few hits, Typhoon 2's weapon went down again. Once more, Storm 2 pushed Typhoon 2 around, but Storm 2 had a bit of scoop missing. And time ran out, and the judges called in soon afterwards. They ruled in favour of Typhoon 2. Don't ask me why. Yay! I only pulled the party popper because by now it's tradition. Typhoon 2 subsequently withdrew from the World Championships, and this was Series 7. Robot Wars didn't return for another 12 years. So this was Typhoon 2's last televised fight, and it's really an unfortunate way to end for both teams. Well, to end the series for both teams. Storm 2 subsequently won the World Championships, but in a fight that, if there was an unsolved crime in open case squad for robot fights to reevaluate and rejudge who actually won, this one's for you guys. This fight. Because it's hard to tell who the real winner of Series 7 was. And it's been 18 years. I guess this is the point where I say what I think about the robot. And I have to admit here, I am not a full body spinner fan. For me, the design has physics going against it. Newton's third law has nowhere to go but straight into the robot. A design like that is going to be hard on the internals. And then add to that the team's robots' other history, the team's other robots' histories and the controversies attached to that. And as a result, it makes Typhoon 2 very hard to like, which potentially could be a shame because it was destructive. It was capable. I can see why it got as far as it did with the fights it had. And the team had an understated sense of humour, which I don't think gets talked about enough. And fortunately, one of the team members did return with PP3D, and the sense of humour was very much there with that robot. And for all its flaws, PP3D, it grew on me. I will say that. Spoiler alert. It did well. Typhoon 2, not PP3D, did well to outlast all the flippers that could have just easily taken it out earlier. Typhoon 2 could have just easily lost in round 1. It could have been a URO that made the deep run. We'll never know. I personally think that Series 5 was Typhoon 2's ideal series. It could have really shone then. Typhoon 2 really was a one-on-one specialist, and when you start off with your 4 robot group fights, there's a chance you might get knocked out before you get a chance to show what you're capable of, and that could have just as easily been Typhoon 2. And the story would be very, very different if that had been the case. It would have been a robot that we never got to see its true capabilities. What Typhoon 2 deserved was the chance to stand or fall on its own merits and not have all the connections to its relatives, robotic relatives, and the whole mess of Storm 2 happen. It's unfortunate for both. Instead, it is the robot who, when I saw its name on that slip, I had a blue screen death. And yeah. So Taiki, please be kind as I pick next week's subject. Please, pretty please, with a cherry on top. It's Banshee. It's Banshee. Until next week, Callison244, out.